so let's talk about how we can do it. First of all, we all know that we're stronger together. You know, I belong to a labor union, I'm an actor, I could never negotiate with Disney, my union negotiates with Disney. So we know that we are stronger together, and we need to come together now, very much like this room. Multiple unions and community groups coming together for common purpose. We need to stand together. We need an economy that promotes growth through job creation, broad opportunity, infrastructure rebuild. We need security on the job and in retirement. And we need democracy, not just in the voting booth. We need democracy that allows workers to vote for a union, because that right has been eroded in this country severely. We need to raise wages. We know that the single thing we need to do that would have the largest impact is to raise wages. So first of all, there are policies that we can support that will help increase wages. An increase to minimum wage, tipped wages. I, of course, as an actor in New York, when I first started out, worked as a waiter. We all did. And I think my tipped hourly wage was $2.13 an hour.
Yeah.
You know how much it is now?
$2.13.
Yep. Yep, hasn't changed at all. This is a long time ago. I used to forget I had a paycheck, because I worked for cash. The paycheck was just this thing that rattled around in my purse. And there are a lot of tipped workers in this country, not just restaurant workers. Car wash, I mean, there are tons of them. Think about it. We need to, but you know, the minimum wage is not the answer. It's a floor. We need it. We have to raise it. But nobody lives on minimum wage. People exist on minimum wage. We need living wage campaigns in this country. People need to be able to make a living, not just subsistence. We need paid family leave and sick leave. Will gave me a statistic this morning that shocked me. So the United States of America and Papua New Guinea are the only two countries in the entire world who don't have paid maternity leave. Papua New Guinea and the United States. We are so far behind the rest of the world in how we support families, and yet we get all of this blather about how, you know, family values are important to our politicians. We also need to push back against the low-wage economy like Walmart, and we have to significantly make sure that workers have a right to organize. The right to organize in this country, bargaining with your employer is the single best way to raise wages, not just for you, but for the people who live in your communities. We really have to strengthen that. What happens when we get money? What do you do with your money when you get a raise?
Spend it.
Yeah, and do you anybody here have a Cayman Island account? No, I haven't even been there on a vacation. We spend it. You buy new shoes for the kids, you take a vacation, you go out to dinner. It goes back into your economy. So it helps not just you, it helps everybody in your economy. When the consumer demand goes up, they invest in their businesses because that's what business people do. They hire more people, they do research and development, they need to capture the money that you're spending. And with that business investment, productivity grows. And if we work together in this way and not independently of each other, this time when productivity grows, we'll have the ability to influence wages to go up, not down. Yes?
Yeah, one thing Harold Meyerson writes about a lot is that, maybe it's the Chicago School of Economists, but they got businesses to say, okay, put most of your extra money back into executive pay and the shareholders.
Shareholders, yeah.
Don't put it into research, don't put it in investment, and for God's sake, don't put it into raising wages. So the money is not just partly sitting off not being used, it's being siphoned back to Dan Duncan over there.
Mr. Wealthy 10%? Yes.
So that's another piece, is that what normally in the past would have gone to investment, research, and wages just goes back to the people with the stocks and the top executives, and that's
Well,
a disgrace.
R&D looks bad on a spreadsheet because you're spending money that eventually will be recouped in better product, but in the short run, it depresses your stock value, so that's another reason they do it. Yes, it's all about wealth, it's not about jobs.
So you're deteriorating the businesses just to make money for
Yeah.
the people in the short run.
And it's just like with the oil and OPEC. The reality was prices were dropping, oil was dropping. They said, slow down your production so we can raise our prices, and they do it with every consumer product there is.
Yeah. Why does everything I buy break in 3 years? Stop to buy a new one. So we need to do other things as well. We need to invest in things that matter to our communities. Education is critical in this country. We have to compete in a global economy. And infrastructure rebuild, the construction industry lost 1.6 million jobs and they have not come back. if we simply repaired the crumbling infrastructure of this country. Think of all the middle-class, good-paying jobs that would be created, and the bonus is your community is safer. So these are things that are really, really critical, not just to the workers, but to the communities that we live in. Other things, we need to demand a social safety net for working families, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment insurance, and significantly, we have to make sure that we protect defined benefit pension plans, both private and public. This attack on public workers' pensions is crazy. I've never understood when somebody says, I don't have a pension and you have one, so I'm going to take yours away. And I'm like, so now you have two people who can't afford to retire instead of one. Defined benefit pensions are critical to people's success as they retire. Why does this matter? Because you don't want people afraid that if they lose their job, they're going to lose everything they've got. That's why these were put in place. And by the way, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, I hate the word entitlements. They're not an entitlement. We pay for them.
That's right.
Well,
They're
we're
entitled to
because
steal
we did
from
pay
them.
for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's be really clear that this isn't anybody's giving us.
Right.
We're giving it to ourselves.
Good point.
The right to vote is probably the single most important right we have in this country. It's our ability to speak to the man, to speak to the system, to speak about these policies that we care about. And so, big surprise, the right to vote is very much under attack these days. Government-issued IDs, changing polling times, deleting early voting, all of these things, motor voter laws that are changed, all of these things are done for a very specific reason, and they're pointed at communities that usually vote in a more progressive manner. So they know where you live, they know how you vote, and they're gonna make it harder for you to do that. And it's across the country. I don't know what it's like here in Virginia. They're even doing it in New York State. So, you know, this whole idea of a photo ID for voting, it's nuts.
But go Oregon.
Yes, everybody who lives there is registered to vote. Thank you very much.
And get a mail ballot.
Yep. Mass incarceration. This is often a difficult conversation to people to have. Mass incarceration is a black eye on this country. We lock up more of our citizens than any other country in the world. 30 years ago, the crime statistics are pretty much the same as they are today. But today, we lock up 3 times as many people as we did 30 years ago. And let's be honest.
It's privatized.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are now building jails and federal detention centers for profit.
Yeah.
And the people who are in those jails are most often young men of color. Let's be really clear about what we're doing. We're warehousing people. And what happens, take all of the social justice concerns to one side. I'm not saying don't pay attention to them. Let's put them in the parking lot for a minute. Let's think about the economic impact to a community. When you take young people out of the beginning of their prime earning years and you lock them up, often for something that's not such a big deal. We're not talking about murderers here. We're
But
talking about
corporations
locking.
make money off of them when they're
Yeah,
in jail too, so.
Absolutely. But what happens to the community when that person's taken out of the community? They go to jail where they learn nothing but bad habits. They come out of jail, they can't vote. Often they can't get a job because they've got a record. So they end up doing, scrambling for work, working for cash because that's all that they can get. But the family that's left behind, think of it, a 20, 21, 22-year-old person. They probably have some kind of family, children, partner, parents. They're abandoned. They're without that person. And in New York City, if you have a drug charge, if you're convicted of a drug charge, your family is thrown out of city housing. So your family is dispossessed. And it could be for a bag of marijuana, which is legal in, a number of states these days. They're doing it for profit. When you start building jails for private corporations, you have to face the fact they have, in Georgia, someone told me in a meeting the other day, in the state of Georgia, if the jails aren't full, they have the right to sue the state of Georgia.
They have to guarantee 90%.
Yep.
And I think that comes from ALEC.
One of the things I saw that builds on that, and it's really egregious, is when people are sentenced and they're sentenced with fines or they're sentenced with we've outsourced all that. The probation,
Yeah.
the paying of fines, and it just keeps these people further in a cycle of poverty.
Yeah, it's all done for a reason. It's not,
Oh,
nothing
yeah.
happens accidentally.
That's right.
But, and we understand it, but I'll speak for the building trades, I don't know about the rest of the unions, but we have huge programs where we go into these prisons and have, teach people the skills to get back into and get into our programs. I mean, and that's a big thing that unionized building trades do all over the nation.
It's huge. There was actually a Times article about a man who was convicted, did some time, not much, a couple of years, got out, and he was a middle-aged white guy. Got out, couldn't get a job because he had a record, and it was the building trades that engaged him and said, you know, we'll help you build a skill, because, you know, he couldn't get a job.
Now, we have government jobs that they're not gonna get on,
Yeah,
but the reality is we have a lot of private work that put
yeah.
folks to work.
It's
all the
really,
time.
it's remarkable work that you're doing. Thank you.